Yellow Corp, the fifth largest trucking company in the country, is finished, bankrupt, done. 30,000 people are going to lose their jobs. So what does this mean for the rest of the trucking market? And what does this mean for union jobs and companies with union employees going forwards? So here's a copy of the memo. It reads, "We regret to inform you that your employment with Yellow Corporation or one of its subsidiaries will permanently terminate on July 28, 2023, or within 14 days after the separation date. The company is shutting down its regular operations on July 28, 2023, closing and or laying off employees at all of its locations, including yours." So this bankruptcy is extremely crazy, just given the fact that Yellow did $5 billion of revenue in the year 2022. And you would think with this company that had such high revenue that they could sell the company because there has to be some kind of value in the customers. However, Yellow was in a very interesting position because they've been bailed out so many times and had so many loans that their debt was too bad and no one would ever purchase them. As you can see here in the New York Times, as of the end of March, Yellow's outstanding debt was $1.5 billion, including about $730 million that it's owed to the federal government. Yellow has paid approximately $66 million in interest on the loan, but it's just repaid $230 of principal owed on the loan, which comes due next year. Now, I think the other reason that they couldn't sell their company like a US Express did when they were losing money was because they were unionized, and that kind of makes it a lot harder to operate properly. If you compare them to their competitors that are not unionized, they make significantly less money on a quarter-by-quarter basis. And actually, interestingly enough, when I was starting my fuel company, we actually won a bid to fuel all of the Yellow YRC sites out in Chicago and the one in Milwaukee as well. And I was actually, this was like back in 2019 or I think it was 2020 of November. And I was going to go out there to Chicago and actually, start the site and get our couple trucks running so we could fill up their trucks. So literally the day before I moved out there, when we were supposed to start fueling like a week later, they said, "No, you guys can't fuel us because you're non-union. So being that you're not a union company, we cannot use you as a supplier." It is my opinion also that I'm seeing that the union companies still have to pay their drivers a lot more money, and there's a little bit less negotiation on the company's end, right? Basically, the unionized companies have to keep the drivers' pay very high, whereas like the non-unionized companies can manage to pay a little bit better and reduce it with the reducing market rates. So when the market rates are coming down, the driver's pay is also coming down, which whether or not you think is a good thing, I think drivers deserve all the money that they can get, but it does affect the company in a negative way. So just real quick here, I want to compare a couple different companies. So here we have Yellow Corp, obviously still technically in business, but you can see here in Q1 of 2023, they did negative $56 million in profit. Now let's compare them to a company like Saia, right? So Saia did $700 million, so far less revenue than Yellow. But on that $700 million, they did $91 million in net income. And Saia is not unionized. Another non-unionized company we can look at here is Old Dominion Freight. So Old Dominion did, in Q2 of 2023, they did $1.4 billion. And on that $1.4 billion, they did $292 million in profit. So these are two businesses that are very similar to Yellow, I would say especially Saia, and did significantly better financially, just leagues better financially than Yellow did. And important to mention here also is that these two non-unionized companies are worth 35 times earnings, and Saia here is worth 32 times earnings. Whereas let's go here, a similar company, ArcBest, which is unionized, is doing $1.1 billion of revenue. They did only $48 million of profit, and their valuation is only right here 10 times earnings. So if you look at the way these companies function that are unionized, they are affected in more ways by then just compromising with the drivers and the drivers having more leverage over the pay. There's other things involved like which suppliers you're able to use, and that's usually reflected in the financials that you can see, posted publicly for union versus non-union companies. I think especially in a time where the rates are rough, you're going to see more market share go to the non-union companies. And I wouldn't be surprised now if Sean O'Brien is more aggressive in trying to get new companies into the Teamsters or more union companies, given the fact that companies like Saia and Old Dominion are so profitable right now, even in a tougher time, they could almost handle becoming a union with their profits. Almost like a salivating target for Sean O'Brien. So you're really seeing this drop in the trucking market since, I would say, April of 2022. It's been consistently going down. It's really been exposing the models of trucking companies that were probably getting frothy during the good times and can't handle the rougher times. So we've seen this now with Yellow going bankrupt. We've seen this now with US Express selling to Knight Swift. Seen this with Royal Bengal Logistics. Tons of other companies in that middle range that have, 50 to 200 trucks. But those companies were all seemingly pretty vulnerable. So what does this mean, I think, for the future? I think if you are a union driver in trucking, it's going to be really hard during these tough times to actually probably get all the work that you want to get and for your company to be actually competitive. You're essentially going to be with a slightly dying company depending on where you are. Now, I think if you're like a trucking company or broker or someone in freight trying to, do better in business, I think this is like the wrong thing to focus on. Now, for me, I was like doing the research. It's kind of interesting to learn like kind of how these companies function from a profitability standpoint, and maybe how companies that are more niche and operate better trade for higher price to earnings ratios. But in the end of the day, these external forces are not really going to affect whether or not your business is going to do well. And I think it's the wrong thing to focus on. Thinking, okay, maybe UPS will strike and the rates will go up a ton and that'll save my business. But I would just really encourage, if you want to actually approach success better, I think that at least what I'm doing right now, what I'm doing is just way more cold calls. We invested in sales software called Zoom Info, for instance, where we can get leads, significantly better search companies to get personal cell phone numbers and stuff just to call and just generate demand for the product, especially in trucking too, because a lot of times it takes us, at least it takes 7 months to close a customer. And I also think that you cannot be 100% asset based unless you're a single truck or have 5 trucks or a super niche and local area. I think if you have 30 trucks to 40 trucks, you're just way too vulnerable to the market. My thought process at least is, okay, let's say you have 20 trucks and you have 20 trucks worth of work. So you're thinking, okay, the market's not good, therefore I cannot expand. My thought is that you actually add the brokerage portion to your business. That way you can expand to doing 30 trucks worth of work with only 20 trucks. That way if the market goes down or you lose a customer, you're not sitting with 5 trucks that are not moving, and then you can't get a customer because hiring a driver takes way too long. I would view the brokerage more, it's seemingly evil. It's not like, it's honestly not a good thing that exists, but it's something that the market wants to exist. So what the brokerage essentially allows you to do would be to do the best work with your bottom 50% of your trucks. So the bottom 50% of your work you do with your own trucks. The other 50% you could do brokering out. This allows you to actually have flexible capacity to expand your fleet rather than just buying trucks, because you can't buy trucks because the market is too bad. And then if you're not buying trucks and you're not trying to get more work, you're just vulnerable to other people stealing your work. This was a mistake I think I made. I didn't really realize how effective brokering would be. But I think rather than looking at it as like brokering, just taking money off the top line, really what you're doing is creating flexible capacity so that if you get a customer and you need to service them right away, you could get all those trucks without buying them yourself. And it allows you to actually just grow so much better because you're not growing. You're not like, okay, new customer, get 3 trucks. And then maybe that new customer doesn't turn out well. Now you're stuck with the 3 trucks and $600,000 worth of debt. The thing is, I think my main point, and maybe I'm just even saying this for myself, but I think that the main thing is just to not focus on the external and focus on your internal work and how you can actually generate demand for your product while minimizing your risk. I think it's really the number one problem that trucking companies have is not doing the sales. And remember, when you don't do your sales, when you don't get your own customers, that means you do not have the leverage over your own income, and basically you're not a business owner. I know this is all kind of like sort of tangent here, but it's just stuff I was been thinking about when I was looking over this, because I was like, oh, maybe this will reduce tons of capacity and the market will go back again. It's not the right way to think. I think you really got to just try to control your own destiny. Well, that's just my opinion here and my knowledge diary of YouTube. But, thanks so much for listening. If you got an opinion on anything, leave a comment and like and subscribe. All right. Thanks. Bye.